What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that focuses on the strategies inside the game of Overwatch. We help you learn through trial and error in the lab, even if things get a bit crazy and blow up in your beakers. This week, we brought back the one, the only, PVPTwitch, my man, the Twitch streaming legend, I guess you could say, but maybe not so much. But he's pretty popular in the Overwatch scene. He's known for repeat top 500 Junkrat specialist places in the Overwatch ladder. And it sounds a little odd to bring on a Junkrat player to talk about Doomfist, because this week we're doing going deep on Doomfist and rocket punching our way in. But apparently you don't need to aim to punch. So, but all jokes aside, PvP actually has a little story for you, which we'll dive into about how he hit Grandmasters on another account that he worked on for the explicit purpose of learning the hero and playing him at all levels of play, wherever he got placed and further. So charge up your Meteor Strikes, and here we go. We're going to punch right into this episode. PvP, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me. Once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah. You want me to just jump right into talking about Doomfist and why I started playing him?
Well, sure. I forgot to introduce everybody. So if you're new to the lab, my name's Rob. This is episode 70, going deep in Doomfist, and joining me as always is Andres Gomez from Atlanta. He's got a little story about why you're not seeing his moving face on the live stream.
What's up? What's up, everybody? What's up? Hey, I'm glad you didn't forget about me. I'm still here. Yeah, no, I'm feeling a little under the weather today, and my face looks like complete death. So instead, I'm just gonna put this little nice picture of me staring into the trees for you guys to enjoy.
Yep. If you're missing out on the live stream this week, I even mounted up a Pachimari on my microphone to cheer him up a little bit. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't interfere too much with the audio. I don't think it does because it doesn't really move. But yeah, maybe a little bit more of an incentive for you guys to watch, not for me, but for the Pachi. But yeah, all right, let's turn it back over to PvP before I make this show a gong show and talk about maybe a little bit of your background with the Doomfist story. Since you've been here before, if you guys want to know more about PvP, feel free to run over his Twitch stream over at PVPTwitch on Twitch, and or you can go back to the Junkrat episode and hear our interview with him. But PvP, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, so that was perfect timing from the dogs.
he wants to be in the show too. Rob forgot to introduce
Simba.
him. Yeah, I'll close my door real quick.
No worries. I mean, I'd be cool with the dog being part of the show. You know, we can interview him too. Going deep, PVPTwitch dog.
So yeah,
Simba going deep.
Yeah. So I'm the Junkrat guy. I love Junkrat, and people know me for Junkrat, but I also didn't want to be known for only Junkrat. So when Doomfist came out, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to dive into using that hero and getting my name known for flexing and playing something other than Junkrat. It's kind of hard to do with the current heroes that are already released because they've been out for so long and everyone has their name. So I kind of wanted to see what I could do playing Doomfist. And especially with it being a new hero, I could help teach a lot of people how to play him because there's not a lot of content. There's zero content out there on how to learn him unless you put him on like the PTR. So I made a separate account solely with the purpose of playing Doomfist and teaching Doomfist and seeing what he's all about.
Nice.
Sweet.
So we know that you started the account fairly low and have gone all the way up almost to Grandmaster. How was that experience? Did you learn the hero as you were climbing up, or did you spend some time off of that, kind of like trying to learn the hero, then going into climbing? How was it?
Well, I played Doomfist like maybe 30 minutes in the PTR when he was released. I didn't play him at all, so when he released, I was completely brand new to him. When I started out, I wanted to start out really low because I know the quality of games for me playing Doomfist would be a lot higher rather than playing in like Master or GM on my main account. As you can tell, during Season 5, the games were pretty terrible in terms of toxicity, and playing a new hero, especially trying to play a new hero every single game, would be really bad. People would pick 60 PS comp, stuff like that. So I want to make a new account, start low, and grind up. And I knew playing a new hero, I wouldn't be perfect at them, so playing low and grinding up would help me and get better at it, and also make the games just better visually for everyone. But what's also cool is that playing in lower ranks when you're a higher ranked player is that you can learn what it's like to be in silver. You can learn what it's like to be in platinum, and you can help people out because it really is completely different. Each bracket, I mean, they're slightly different as you go, but further and further you go on, you learn different things. Like maybe this bracket communicates more than this one. Maybe this bracket does well with 4 DPS comps than this one, just because everyone plays differently at different ranks. So it really helps to actually be there to learn what it's like, so you can help other people improve their gameplay at their rank. So yeah, playing Doomfist there, with it being a new hero too, I can also learn how to play Doomfist at low ranks versus what it's going to be like, and see the progression as I climb on how more difficult it's going to be going up into Master and GM, and it definitely is noticeable.
So PvP, when you were doing this climb, I think it's important for us to be clear and cover your bases here for not saying you were throwing games to get placed low. Like you were playing basically with the desire to win and to play normally, but yeah, that's just the nature of placing low or placing lower than you were on another account. It's because the fresh account is A, trying to figure out where you're at skill level wise, and B, you're playing a new hero that you're actually not experienced on at that level. So that's why you would get placed at a lower rank. Do you remember where you were put at the starting point? Were you in gold?
Well, when I played on my new account, I played with 5 other bronze players intentionally. Some people might say that it wasn't, morally good, but I wanted to play with those players just because I felt like if I play with those players, then it might place me lower, and it might be way more difficult to carry throughout the climb. Because I knew if I played by myself and played Doomfist, it might put me in higher ranks, and it would be, I guess it would hinder the challenge because you wouldn't be able to have as much opportunity to teach people how to play the role. I mean, as you could tell later on in the challenge when I hit Master and GM, the quality of the games are so bad, so terrible in Season 5. Like it was incredibly terrible. People would see Doomfist pick on day 3 of the release of the hero, and they'd throw immediately. They'd go offensive Torb, Hanzo, and everything. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, just to make it clear, I didn't throw games.
Yeah, and I wanna kind of touch on this a little bit because I think that this is kind of like an interesting point. The starting accounts low and going up high, because there's been some controversy around the subject, right? And granted, you're not doing it to be malicious, right? You're not trying to like ruin everyone's day. You're not trying to throw games, like you said. You just started an account low, and you want to show what the journey was from playing Doomfist from low to high, right? And some people out there, don't mind this. Actually, some people enjoy watching those kind of videos because, like you say, they can be very educational, seeing how a high-level player approaches all these other brackets, especially with a new hero. But some other people don't share the same opinion and say that might be unfair for players that are in lower brackets who have to play against these higher players. And there's been even some bans that happened recently, right? I believe Stevo was the guy who got banned recently live on stream because he was playing at a lower bracket. Honestly, I don't know the complete story and stuff. I don't know if you have maybe an opinion about it. I just kind of like want to see it from your perspective and like show your perspective to everyone.
Well, yeah, the Stevo situation. I mean, I like Stevo.
It was really recent, by the way. This is like within 24 hours of us recording.
Yeah, it happened yesterday. I like Stevo. I think he's a cool guy. I think he might have really overdone the Bronze to GM challenge. I don't think his purpose for doing Bronze to GM on Symmetra was anything other than entertainment value or maybe just personal fun aspect. And when it gets to a point where you do it over and over and over, and you really are just punishing low players by just making them lose because you're a high ranked player playing in low ranks, I don't think there's any value that you're going to get out of that. When I did the challenge, I had the intentions of literally just playing at low ranks so I could teach people how to play it. And I had so many people ask me, can you please do it on Hanzo? Please do it on Torb. Please do it on Soldier. Can you please, it's so entertaining. Can you please just, do it every day or whatever? I'm like, no, there's no reason to. I'm not trying to play at low ranks to bully noobs for entertainment purposes. The only reason I'm doing it is to try and teach you guys how to play Doomfist, and as well as learn myself. I knew the quality games at high ranks wouldn't be possible. So I mean, I'm not happy Stevo got his account banned or anything, But I am happy that Blizzard did step in and take action on people playing at really low ranks and making a statement that it shouldn't happen anymore. Because I wasn't going to do it anymore, especially with the uproar on Reddit about people doing the challenge. It's obviously looked on as a negative thing in the community now, so I'm not going to do it anymore. But at the time when I did it, it wasn't really, no one really said anything, really cared. It wasn't a problem.
And honestly, I think there's a time and place for this kind of videos because, like you said, they can be very educational. And I've watched a couple of streamers done it before. I've thought it was pretty good, just seeing how like they interact in all the different brackets and all stuff, and seeing them all the way through. Like in the lower brackets, they play completely different than even at Diamond. They start changing kind of like their strategy to keep climbing up. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. Definitely not something to be abused. Definitely, if it's overdone, it can be a huge problem because then people are not playing at the ranks that they should be playing at, and throws the matchmaker in for a loop. Reducing the quality of games overall of everyone. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like get your opinion on it. Nothing much more than that. You want to carry on, Rob?
Yeah, I think that's just where we're going to end the discussion there. I think it was a good thing just because I know PvP's had experience with doing something maybe more on the educational side rather than what other people do. And I know that it's like you said, PvP, it's not necessarily the ethical decision, but it treads that thin ice. And it's just one of those things where if you want to do it for educational purposes, there are benefits, but there are also drawbacks, right? Because the drawbacks are so drastic, they can no longer allow this type of thing to exist, regardless of what the community's overall opinions are. This is the system that they had to put in place, and so this is what's going to be the result. In addition to that, I want to highlight that PvP, you have, 3 other accounts besides the primary PvPTwitch account. All of them play Flex as their primary, with one of them highlighting one particular season, mostly Junkrat. I believe that's correct. And then the other one would be the Doomfist account on the 4th one. So go ahead if you want to elaborate.
I was going to say, the last season I flexed a lot, but it seems like this season I'm playing like pretty much only Junkrat because the buff came through.
So
I'm just rolling everyone with
We're
Junkrat.
going to have to revisit that Junkrat episode.
Literally every game I'll pick a hero and I'll be like, I can play Soldier or I can play Junkrat.
Do I want to win? Then I'm going to pick
I can just roll everyone with Junkrat. He's so OP right now.
All right. Well, with that, let's go into the non-OP category and talk about Doomfist.
I mean, depending on who you talk to, he might still be in the OP
depending on who you're
category.
talking to. Yeah. All right. So let's get into the Doomfist thing. So as we start Doomfist, we always start with the main 2 things. We talk about what is Doomfist's role? What does he try to do in the game? And what is the fundamentals for the hero for those of you who are new to Doomfist, who have never played the hero, who hate the hero and want to try him out, or whatever reason? Or maybe you're just in a lower tier bracket, you're trying to improve your Doomfist play. So let's start with the role, and then we'll go into the fundamentals of the hero, and then we'll move out of that to more specific questions.
Okay, so Doomfist's role is obviously a DPS hero. I wouldn't say that he's a standard DPS, like he's not like a McCree where he just chills in one spot and just looks at people and shoots them. I would say he's more of he can be a dive hero, but I don't think he can be a dive hero by himself. He needs extra support, like from a Zarya, or like he has to make sure he has another tank going in with him, like Diva or Winston. And also I could say he's a pretty exceptional flanker, but you do need to play somewhat stealthy because of the one-punch combo. You can, if you're crouched behind the team, you can hit a free kill just by punching someone into a wall. So I say he's a pretty strong flanker in that aspect, and has high mobility for being able to get out if like they know you're there. You can get out really quick.
Okay. And maybe jump into more of the fundamentals. I know that we're going to get into more specifics, but you can overlap this if you need to. Just kind of like, what's your first impressions of how you want to play Doomfist? I guess positioning is probably the most important thing, and we have a whole question dedicated to that. So maybe we can just address the positioning thing right away if you would like to.
Okay. Yeah, so the fundamentals of Doomfist are basically his combo is you go in, you try and kill someone, you get out. That's basically the best way to play Doomfist. He's not the type of hero where you want to try and stay in the fight for an extra period of time because he has such a large hitbox. He doesn't have like armor or anything, so he just takes a ton of damage, and you can die really quickly with him. his insane mobility allows him to fly around, but you do need to play safe. So you want to think about it like a slingshot. Or not a slingshot. What am I? Bungee cable maybe. You go in and then you shoot
boomerang.
back. Yeah, boomerang. That works. So that's the mindset you should have with Doomfist. I guess it's more closely related to Genji. Dash and do some damage.
Fast food DPS.
Get out. Yeah, fast food DPS. Yeah. So that's Doomfist in a nutshell.
Get your fries and get out.
Yeah, that's Doomfist in a nutshell. His positioning, I would say you want to play more on like the sides of your team. You don't want to be in the middle because you don't want to be taking a lot of large hits. Doomfist is a hero that requires a lot of, I would say, a lot of teamwork or maybe even team composition for him to work. His hitbox is so crazy that you can't really just solo the enemy team anymore, especially people how they learned how to play against him been released. And his charge got nerfed. Like you can't just like, it's not like the size of a Roadhog anymore where you just charge in and kill everyone. So you do need to play extra careful with him. But if you do master him, Doomfist can be seriously like I've seen like some people just, I mean, I've done it before too, but like you can just roll people by yourself and it happens, but it's not generally something that's a normal thing. But Doomfist can pop off. It's pretty nuts. Like his mobility and burst damage.
For sure. Like when you see a Doomfist that is getting played the right way, he just feels like this kind of like Winston-like, or like you said, Genji-like character that's constantly above you, flying all over the place, and just like hurts so much. It's like this heavy-handed guy falling on you all the time. And maybe I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, or explain how you engage with Doomfist, because I feel like his engagement is very, very important to him being able to, you know, play effectively. How do you choose to engage? Some people do it different ways. What targets do you try to prioritize when you go in? What are good signs for you to go in, or what are signs for you to be like, maybe I should kind of like hold off over here? Because like you said, Doomfist can be very vulnerable if you engage by yourself.
Yeah. So playing Doomfist, if you have like a composition where you have like a Winston and a Zarya, the best way to do it is to have your Winston jump in front of you and create space and put down a bubble. And then the combo that you generally want to do is charge in, try and hit someone, maybe shoot 2 times, then uppercut, shoot 2 times, and then slam out. Your slam ability, most of the time, you want to use it to get to safety, not necessarily offensively, because it's, other than charge, it's really your only forward mobility skill. And charge does so much damage that you want to use that offensively, and you typically want to use your slam defensively. As you're going in, it's great to have a Zarya with Doomfist, so you can mitigate a bunch of damage. They can't shoot you, obviously, because you have a Zarya bubble on you, and that'll also give your Zarya energy. Doomfist, he has such low cooldowns on his charge. It's only 4 seconds. So you can actually, like you can go in, uppercut, slam out, and then walk forward, and then charge in, uppercut, slam out, like over and over and over
in a cycle,
a ton of times.
Yeah,
in a cycle. Yeah.
And I feel like there's kind of like the whole trick of playing Doomfist effectively. You never want to just linger around in there, but constantly just be this train coming in and out that can just one-shot people out of the way.
Yeah, but you do want to be you want to think ahead with Doomfist. You don't want to just charge in and then uppercut and slam out. You want to know exactly where you're going to go when you're going in, and exactly where you're going to go when you're going out. It's really good to if your healers aren't really dependable, to maybe slam yourself near a health pack, or put yourself in a position where you're completely safe when you leave. So yeah, it's a really good tip for playing Doomfist.
Yeah, also
it's very similar to Genji that way.
Yeah, the position that you dash in, right? Like you can't just like charge in with your fist into a corner where you can't easily do what you said, uppercut and dash out. You got to make sure you have an exit route after you're in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be caught inside of a building, because when you uppercut, you'll just hit the roof and it'll put you straight back down on the ground. And you have to be high up in the air to be able to slam farther away, because if you hit a roof and you go straight down the ground and you slam, you're not going to go very far at all. You're just going to slam right in front of you. So
yeah.
I've been
There's
killed
also,
a lot of times. Sorry. I've been killed a lot of times because I'll uppercut and I'll hit like a sign and then I'll just fall to the ground and die.
Oh no.
Oh geez.
Stupid sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that like there's some very interesting like ways that you can maneuver with the uppercut, because sometimes it'll function similarly to like the last second when you have a Genji double jump or a Hanzo falling onto the wall climb, where it won't really show the climb animation. You just kind of like almost do this weird like hop animation where you just like land on the cover even though you're like right on the edge. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's basically the system registering you as landing on the edge, and so you're just going to be able to walk forward on it. And I've also seen PvP, I think I've seen you as well as just a couple other players doing this, where I think the best example is honestly just King's Row. If you're defending as Doomfist, you can uppercut to get on that back high ground behind the point where there's the catwalk, and there's also the staircase as you're engaging on the far right. So if you're on King's Row, you can actually uppercut to that safety, block a couple shots, have them chase you, and then just do a simple spacebar or traditional console jump, and then use your seismic slam to get out. Because you're basically pulling people away from the fight towards you, and you're not really baiting them to attack you, because there's a chance that you can die, but you're able to use that as basically just pulling the fight and changing the enemy team's shape as well as escaping. So it's really more dynamic way of interpreting a fight scenario and try to pull people away. It's kind of what they call peeling if you're unfamiliar.
Yeah, Doomfist, because of his crazy mobility, he can create a lot of space like that. I would say it is more map dependent. But yeah, King's Row is definitely a good example. A lot of people on defense on King's Row, they'll like to hold in that corner where the point is, where the little mini health pack is, and they'll actually like not have anyone on high ground. So you can go up on high ground and create space and create havoc for the enemy team.
Yeah,
with,
of course.
Nice.
I think we can go
talk a
into
little
the
bit
next
more
question.
about the abilities themselves. You want to talk a little bit about those, Rob?
Yeah. So first of all, we have the rocket punch, which is the clear bread and butter. That's the engagement and the primary way in which you're dealing damage. And I think that as we move into talking about this ability, I know Andres would want me to talk about this, but you have to make sure that you understand that Doomfist's usefulness is contingent upon the rocket punch being the ability that gets you out 100% or the ability that literally confirms kills. Because if you're not doing that, or you're not spacing somebody into your team by punching them into your team or into a wall, the rocket punch is relatively useless. And PvP is going to have a little bit more deviation on that, and kind of the impact of this and target prioritization that we'll touch on.
Yeah, so just to touch up on Doomfist's passive ability, when he hits people, he gets 30 shields. So it is pretty important to make sure you hit your abilities, as in your uppercut, your slam, and your punch, if you're going to be using those offensively. Obviously, you can one-shot people with Doomfist charge, like support heroes or DPS heroes, if you slam them into a wall after you punch them. But that doesn't mean you should always do it on support or DPS heroes. It's actually really good to do it on tanks. The good thing about Doomfist charge is that it's also a stun. So if you charge the Reinhardt, he gets stunned or he gets slammed back or whatever, and he has to lower his shield. So you could charge into the enemy Reinhardt to break his or stop his shield for a second. So your Reinhardt can earth shatter. Or if your soldier has visor, you can charge into the enemy diva and then uppercut her, and that gives your soldier at least a few seconds of open visor space, so there's no defense matrix in his space. But in generally, you do want to try to get those picks on the squishy heroes. It is best to do it on a support hero because they're most vulnerable. Zenyatta has like nothing against Doomfist, no mobility, no CC. So Zenyatta is it's a free kill most of the time. Ana is a little bit of a different story because of Sleep Dart, but if you combo like Defense Matrix on her or Zarya Bubble on herself, then you can kill Ana pretty easily. And Lucio can be a little hard to hit, but honestly, it's still pretty easy Doomfist to charge a Lucio. The thing is, what you need to watch out when you're targeting DPS heroes is things like McCree Flashbang. That's a pretty hard counter versus Doomfist. And maybe like a Junkrat Concussion Mine that can CC you away. But other than that, Doomfist can do some pretty good work, just almost hitting anyone with his charge ability.
Yeah, the charge ability is extremely efficient at doing more than just insta-killing. And I would like us to maybe also touch on the fact that you can like how to utilize and weave in the ability combinations, because like Blizzard has told us that Doomfist is the homage or the love story to their love for fighting games and why he's into the game. So everything Doomfist does is really hard to isolate specific abilities to a certain extent because of how important it is to overlap them. And because of that, like PvP said, the whole reason why this is important is the shields. It basically builds your survivability by landing abilities offensively, as well as if you land one ability, you have a little bit more of a buffer in order to use the other abilities to get out, as well as combo those with the primary fire, which is the one that I'd like you to touch on if you could, and how you weave in the primary fire with the abilities.
Yeah, the primary, I talked about just briefly earlier on. Primary fire is pretty unique because you have 4 burst shots where it goes boom, 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 and then it slowly regens. You don't reload with Doomfist. It regens like, I don't know what the timing is, like
0.75 seconds.
Yeah, so 0.75 seconds you get a new shot, and then you can burst, but you go up to 4. So what I like to do is I'll charge in, I'll uppercut someone, I'll charge in, I'll shoot twice, and then uppercut, shoot twice. So I used all my burst ammo, and then you can slam out. So getting the timing with your abilities is pretty important, because you don't want to be caught without any abilities or shots at all, because you're literally useless. You just have melee, and oftentimes you'll get, or sometimes you'll get people like 30 or like 40 HP, and you won't have any shots left, and you won't have any abilities left, and you're just like running around trying to punch them, and it's like, oh crap. But if you perfect your sequence with your abilities and know how much damage each one does, then you can create like a mental note in your head, like, okay, this person's at 50% health, then I'll need to do this and this to make sure that he dies, because you can't always rely on a headshot, even though that does a lot. I think Doomfist does 66 damage with his shot. And if you hit a headshot, obviously it does 122. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that's pretty. Good. Yeah. So just a tip that I would recommend: maybe go into the practice range or go into a custom lobby with a bunch of easy bots and just try to fly around the map. Just charge, shoot a couple times at people, then uppercut, then shoot, slam. Just try and go around the map until you have that game sense in your head of okay, my cooldown is almost done, without even having to look at your cooldowns, because that's something that's really important with Doomfist.
Yeah, I think with Doomfist especially, like the way you combo your abilities and stuff is really important. What you said, like being able to have those combos kind of like memorized in your head and knowing, hey, if I do Seismic Slam and one hit, I do this much damage. And not only like, you don't have to memorize the hard numbers, but you can do it by intuition, right? Like if you know you're dealing with a 200 HP hero, you only need to do this sequence. And if the 200 HP hero is at 100, you only need to do this sequence. And you gotta react on it in the moment, right? As the fight is developing and stuff, and you see things happening, and you see, okay, I have only this cooldown and this cooldown available. Here's my position, here's the enemy team. Can I close that gap and do the damage while escaping, kind of thing? It's pretty strategic, especially because you have no range with him aside from like the small pellets. But even those are like short range that like the whole time with Doomfist, you're constantly thinking, what do you have available to you, and can you close the gap and get out, kind of thing. It's like this give and take. Do you want to talk a little bit about the uppercut and the seismic slam? Do you have any special ways that you use those? Maybe some little tricks that people might not know immediately after picking up the skills?
Yeah, so just real quick on the uppercut, it works the same as charge, where if you uppercut, it stops Matrix, I believe, and like Reinhardt's shield, for example. With the seismic slam, it does, I don't know how much damage if you just do it on the ground, maybe like 20 or something. But the higher up in the air or the farther
10.
you go, then okay, yeah, it's really low. It's like nothing. That's
Well,
less than melee.
it says it depends. I think it's 10 to 125, depending on.
Yeah,
Well, if you
but
just hit the button, it's 10.
Yeah,
Like if you
Oh,
just
I'm just
gotcha,
start doing
talking
gotcha.
nothing
on
and
the
you hit the ground, it's 10.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's either the higher up in the air or just the farther you slam, the more damage it does. And there's actually a pretty unique way that you can. I don't know if it's like a bug or you can abuse it, but if you use the roof on some buildings, like you can uppercut and then charge on top of a building and then hit slam, you'll just slide off the roof. And as you're sliding off the roof, the number tick for slam will go up and up and up. You can get up to 125 damage. And there's certain ways that you can do this on some maps, like Eichenwald at the very, very beginning.
Airtime is
Yeah,
how the charge is calculated.
Yeah, more airtime. Yeah, so like on Eichenwald on like defense, you can go up in the buildings and you can, as the game starts, and you can get your slam ready to do 125 damage for when they come to the choke point, and then you just slam right down on top of them. Because while you're sliding on the roof, you can like move back and forth a little bit to delay yourself, and then when you want to go down, you can go down and have a full powered slam.
Oh, I think
there-
I've seen this before. I think I've seen it done in Gibraltar. You start and you kind of like just fly all the way around to like the high ground where defenders are usually waiting for you, and it was I saw it on Reddit. This guy just kind of like rocket punching and then Sismic's like slamming to that side and just kind of like two-shotting this soldier like right off the bat. It was like 15 seconds into the game, and I was like, how did that happen? And I guess that makes sense now.
Oh yeah, so if you can figure out specific locations on maps or areas where you know when you slam you'll do like 110 damage or something like that, you can, if you know someone's in that spot, you can have your combo ready to do your sequence of abilities to one-shot that person or to know how to kill them really quickly. The slam ability is the most unique ability that he has, in my opinion, because of it's just so weird. Like you go distance, you can do a high amount of damage if you get it right, but it's also you have to be really accurate with it. It's not like a Reinhardt or Shatter where you can just hit everyone in front of you. You have to actually be really, really close. It's kind of like a really small cone effect. So you need to be pretty accurate with that to do damage.
It's actually
It
hard
has
to
a draw
land.
ability as well.
Yeah, when you're
Yeah, it is.
When you're just getting to the hero, I feel like it's one of the abilities that is the hardest to understand. When I was trying to learn Doomfist when it first came out, I remember at first I could just not hit anyone with that ability until I kind of like got like, oh, it's a really small cone pretty much right in front of you. And it also has a small stun, right? It brings people in towards you for a brief second. So you can kind of like abuse that to prevent people from going places or getting people slightly out of position, interrupting them in whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I was going to mention that when you hit people with the slam ability, it puts them in the air for like half a second or a second. And you can actually use that to hit headshots really easily because they're like locked in position and you can just shoot them right in the face. That's a really good way to finish people. Like it would say you're in a 1v1 fight and you don't need to use your abilities. Like you don't need to use slam to get out to safety. You can definitely use that offensively, even for 10 damage, even though you don't need the damage from slam. You just want that CC effect to put them in the air so you can... Yeah, so you can maybe shoot them once and then charge them immediately or something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can do that like just to draw them in to get a quick melee if you need to. So you can basically, like you were saying, you go charge your punch, your rocket punch, you know, two rounds of hand cannon, sky uppercut, slam, and then slam melee punch or cannon. So you can do lots of really, really crazy things. Basically, I think if you want to look at any tool for Doomfist, the best way of looking at it is 2 to 3 rounds of the hand cannon is typically what's good and ideal for weaving between abilities. But you also shouldn't feel married to using the hand cannon between everything. It's a little different than kind of your typical MOBA or your typical fighting game where it's like, oh, you have to do X, then Y, then Z, and then you have to do, you know, the whole Shoryuken, and then you have to do the Kaioken times 10 if you're playing Smash. Kaioken times 10 if you're playing Dragon Ball or like whatever. But we can get into this. We need to go into the Meteor Strike, which is the crazy ultimate ability where Doomfist goes untargetable for 4 full seconds, jumps into the air, takes about 1 second to cast. I also believe it's the same for the landing. For like when you click the ability, you have a 1 second delay before you actually land, where the reticle is on the ground and everybody can actually move for a second. And then that area is about 7 meters within the radius. That means 14 meters in the width, which is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the same as May. I think it's the exact same area. And then it does 300 damage in the epicenter, or the very center dot. And then from there, it will have a very harsh drop off until the edge at 0. So PvP, talk about the ultimate. Talk about maybe how it's efficient to charge, or how fast it kind of feels more now that you've been playing it a lot, like how quickly you charge it compared with your other heroes, and then maybe some tips and tricks in positioning it to make sure you confirm kills.
Yeah, so I think one of the best ways to treat Doomfist ult is to act like it's a Winston ult. A lot of the times, Winstons might use their ultimate offensively to force some cooldowns or maybe get a possible pick. But generally, Winston wants to use his ult to keep himself alive longer in a fight, or to get out safely. And that's really a good way to put it as Doomfist. If you want to add that extra little inch to stay in the fight for a little bit longer, and you have your ult to get out, you can just stay in the fight, and then when you're about to die, you just ult and you get out. I think the best way to use that ultimate offensively is obviously to combo it with a Zarya ult or something like that. But what I like to do if I'm going to use it offensively is, if I use it, or if I use my ult, I want to slam down almost immediately after. Because the problem is, if you wait too long, the other team's going to have mobility skills saved up. And so let's say like a Junkrat concussion mine. If you wait like 5 seconds, obviously he's going to have a concussion mine ready to boop himself away. But sometimes if you use your ult, you'll just slam right down on the Junkrat, and he won't have that concussion mine to move, so he's just dead. So you can catch people off guard, especially if you are keeping track of cooldowns as minute as their mobility skills. But if you're going to be using Doomfist ult, you can keep track of that. Like if you see a Mercy, if you think she's about to fly and then she flies, as soon as she hits that fly button, use your Doomfist ult, go to her and slam down right on top of her, because she will have to either fly away immediately, or she won't have her fly ready. And a lot of the times when you're trying to kill Mercies, they like to fly whoever they're healing to. So instead of landing directly on top of the Mercy, you can position yourself in between her and her target that she's healing. But she'll just fly right into the middle of your circle and kill herself. In terms of Doomfist ult charge rate, I think it's honestly in a really, really perfect spot. He doesn't get it too quickly, and he doesn't get it too slowly. I think it's really balanced in terms of how quickly he gets it. I mean, obviously, if you're killing people, like 5 people every fight, you're going to get your ult really quickly, but you kind of deserve that ult that you earned. And I don't see Doomfist getting his ult any more than he really should. So it's pretty balanced in terms of ult charge.
Yeah, and even though
quick
his
word
ult
from
is
Twitch
pretty...
chat.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, quick word from Twitch chat. May ultimate is 10 meters, not 7. So it is a little larger for May ult, which is reasonable in my estimation. But, yeah.
Thanks, chat.
There you go. Okay, Andres, go ahead.
I was just going to say that to what you were saying about the ultimate, it's a strong ultimate, and especially if you're able to land it, people feel it on the other team. If you combine it with a Zarya, for example, you can cause a lot of damage. But at the same time, I think it's a very counterable ultimate. So even if he gets it often, it's not like the end of the world, right? It's not like Graviton that is like game swinging or resurrection kind of stuff, kind of type of level. But I do really like how you say that you use it to chase people or finish them off. And it's a great thing to do it, because especially after you've finished with your cycle, your cooldowns are down. You're usually at a very vulnerable state. You might be even like halfway down on HP or close to dying, and your ultimate is a great way to being like, "Ooh, out of here! You can't shoot at me anymore." I know that a lot of Doomfist also use it defensively, right? Like when you get jumped and you're out of your cooldowns and stuff, that your ultimate can be a great way to get out of there and maybe hide for a second while your team can come and back you up. Do you ever use it for defensively, or any tips using it that way?
Yeah, a really, really good tip with using his ult defensively, but also still staying in the fight, A good example would be on, if let's say you're attacking on Temple of Anubis, which is a 2 CP map. On the second point, you know how it's always a drawn out fight where people are just there's enemy teams staggering in. You're trying to take the point, but they keep contesting. Well, let's say you're really low HP and you have no cooldowns, but you want to stay in the fight to create pressure. You can actually use your ult just to slam down on like two tanks, knowing that they're not going to die because you don't do enough damage with it. But the good thing about his ult is that you gain 30 shields for every person that you hit. So if you're low on HP and you slam down on enemy tanks or whoever you hit, you'll gain a bunch of HP, and maybe if you waited like 3 seconds, your cooldowns will all be refreshed. So it's kind of like a reset button.
It also gives your Ana some time to breathe.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
reload or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and the good thing about it is when you use Doomfist, everyone's like, oh shit. Like where's he at? Where's he gonna slam it? Yeah, it's the same thing with Riptire. When you use Riptire, everyone hears fire in the hole, and they're like, I mean, nowadays, since Riptire is so nuts, everyone's looking up in the sky like, where's this thing coming? but yeah, like I noticed on payload maps, like I'll use Riptire, and like the other team just gets off the payload. They all run.
You don't even have to kill somebody.
Well, especially the squishies, they gotta hide because meteors.
Yeah,
coming.
They literally hide. Yesterday I used a Riptire and I had to use it for 10 seconds and I didn't see a single enemy. I was like, where are these people? And literally at the last second, I turn a corner, I kill a McCree that's crouched in a corner hiding. I was like, oh, I got someone. But,
Can't stun that.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Awesome.
All right, let's do a few of our listener questions. We don't have a lot today, but some of them are pretty interesting. Let's kick it off with Infinite number 1. He just asked, for Doomfist, do you have a customized keyboard layout or do you just use the default keys? I know that with Junkrat you have a couple of different key commands. Do you have any preferences for this one?
Well, I don't use anything custom for Doomfist, but I have my own custom keybinds that I use for everything, and it's something that I've never seen anyone else use. I use mouse wheel scroll up and mouse wheel scroll down. The reason I did that initially was because I came from console and I wanted to try and figure out the best way to use keyboard. And when you come from console to PC, learning how to hit a bunch of different keybinds while you're also trying to move is really difficult on the keyboard. So with my setup, I can use mouse wheel scroll up for the slam, mouse wheel scroll down for the ultimate, left shift for the charge, and I never have to take my keys off my movement mobility skills or movement keys, WASD. So I can constantly have, I can be moving whatever direction I want. It's easy to remember. And the good thing is, you can use your index finger to primary fire on your left click. If I want to slam, all I got to do is move my finger to the right, scroll wheel up, and I can slam. And you're not going to be shooting and slamming at the same time. So it doesn't really matter if you're moving your index finger off of fire to use slam or ultimate. You're not going to be shooting and using your ult at the same time. So that's something I really recommend. I also have my crouch and reload on the side mouse button.
Now, PvP, you came from console, so correct me if I'm like kind of off base on this, but I was thinking a lot about what you would want to do for binds on a console here for Doomfist. And in theory, because you have to have both of your fingers on the thumbsticks and you're trying to land both the rocket punch as your primary and the seismic slam as your main ability of escape, it makes the most sense to me to make sure that the triggers or the bumpers are both set for those abilities and that they're on opposite sides. So maybe right trigger, right bumper for the charge shot, and then maybe the other one on the right side would maybe be your primary fire, and then the left side you would have the left bumper or the right or the left trigger to be the ability that lets you get up into let the seismic slam on the ground. Maybe you even have the slam and the uppercut on the same side. That would make the most sense to me. And then you have like ultimate and melee on your keys, or your X circle square, or your XAB.
So the default controllers, will say for Xbox and PS4, they're kind of limited. I mean, really limited. So I bought a custom controller. I had a Scuff controller. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but basically it adds paddles to the back where your middle finger is, like holding in the back of the controller.
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
It gives you 2 to 4 extra buttons. And that broke, and I ended up buying a Microsoft Elite controller. So that gives me a real advantage in terms of button layout on controller. But if you don't if you don't have the extra money to buy a custom controller like that, I really recommend putting your controller on bumper jumper, where you use your middle finger and your index fingers for both your triggers and your bumpers, and you can have your like one of your bumpers on jump, one of them on charge, and one of your triggers on shoot, one of them on ultimate or whatever. What I used was I had jump and reload on the back bumper buttons on my custom controller, and then my ultimate was my left analog stick. I would click it in, and then my melee, or yeah, I think my melee was like right analog stick. I click it in, and then I just, I figured it out from there with the whatever I wanted from my trigger and my bumpers.
That's nice. Having the jump back there is probably really nice because especially in the console version, trying to jump while like aiming
makes
is
you
death.
way harder to hit.
Yeah, it was a big thing in Call of Duty. Like I played Call of Duty for many, many years, and in competitive COD, it was a huge advantage to have those paddles on the back because you wanted to be able to jump, turn, and shoot around a corner at the same time, and you wouldn't be able to do that with the default controller.
Yeah. In Overwatch, you do too.
Okay.
Jumping is very integral of a lot of heroes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. You want to do the next?
All right, we got another one. Yeah, we got another one from Steal Your Beef about opinions on the one-shot capability and the changes to the hitbox for the one-shot. The one-shot is basically the ability for Doomfist to basically kill anything within one fist, which is basically hitting somebody and them colliding with a wall to the point where they're from 100 HP or 150 HP, 200 HP, 250 HP to zero in zero counterplay besides positioning. So he talks about this as being the primary way in which Doomfist gets kills and also does his job, but also that's what we talked about earlier, the high risk, high reward, because once you miss or once you hit them and they don't hit the wall, then you're at a very big disadvantage in your current position.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about that, if you think they'll ever change it and why or why not?
I don't really like the fact that Doomfist can one-shot people with just his charge. I think if he were to have to kill someone, I think he would have to charge them. They would also have to hit the wall, and you would also have to use maybe like a shot and a melee to kill them. Maybe take up some more of Doomfist's resources just to put towards killing someone. Because the one-shot one-shot charge is really not it's not a fun mechanic for the person getting charged, especially support players they feel helpless.
Out of bands, rip.
Yeah. The charge hitbox change is obviously it needed to happen. When Doomfist got released, his hitbox, like, if you guys don't know what hitbox means, it means the square that you need to have them in on the center of your screen or your cursor in order to hit them with the actual pin or the charge. And it was ginormous. It was like the size of Roadhog. And they made it really, really small now, which needed to happen. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they actually messed it up. They might have bugged it out because there's a lot of like no reg charges now. And I think that's one of the reasons why Doomfist right now is not seeing a lot of play at all. Like I rarely see Doomfist played because his charge is just so wonky now. He'll charge straight into someone and it'll just go straight through them. I think they need to look into fixing that. I heard it's
bugged. Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to look into fixing
that because it's really bad.
Yeah, I don't know if it's bugged or maybe it's just like too small to the point where like now it's just too hard to hit him with, latency and all that stuff accounted for.
Yeah,
it just might be like too weird. So it might be something they might want to revisit, maybe reducing the damage, increasing the hitbox, so you can still land the charges effectively, but maybe not as punishing to the other team. I did notice a little bit that after the hero has been out for a bit and people kind of like get used to it, especially when they were playing against a lot of teams with Doomfists, people do modify like their movement, they modify their positioning to help him out and stuff, which I think that when people were complaining the most, that hadn't happened, right? They were not used to playing against Doomfist, and a lot of them were just kind of like playing into him and playing into the positions where he wants you to be. I did think that it needed maybe a little tone down, although I like the fact that he feels so strong and that hanging out around corners or small walls is kind of a liability because he can get to you and kind of punish you there. I don't know. I don't mind the one-shotting capabilities. I think that he is big enough to see him coming, and you can kind of adapt to that as a player, mainly in your position. Sometimes he will get you. There's nothing you can do. He'll just one-shot you, but I think I'm okay with that. Maybe unpopular opinion here.
I agree with Andres. Yeah.
Yeah, he does have enough cons to where his one-shot ability it's evenly balanced out with how it works. It's just my personal preference. I think they should change the concept of the hero. Instead of a glass cannon, I think he should be more of a
semi-tanky.
Brawler is a perfect brawler is a perfect example. I think he should be able to be in a fight for extra periods of time, maybe not one shot everyone, but just use his combos constantly and create havoc. They could even go to the extent of reducing the slam cooldown and reducing the damage across the board of all his abilities, but just make it so he can just constantly just move around and CC and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have. I think there's no CC hero in the game right now, right?
Not like like a pure CC where his main strength is just CC, not damage.
Yeah, it would have been really cool to see Doomfist be that hero or have that role where he is just being annoying as hell and just CCing everyone, just like booping the tanks away and messing up the position of the enemy. Like, I think that would have taken over the arcade role the best, as in the fighter role. But I don't know. It's just my personal preference. He's fine how he is now. It's just I would like to see him different.
He does have a very unique. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
I was gonna say, like, personally, I think that's an interesting idea, but not just as a support player, but I would like to see more of dynamics within the support tree. And I think that if you do something that competes with Lucio's speed, so you give a hero a lot of mobility with speed rather than actually giving them mobility abilities, if that makes sense, making them just innately really fast, and then also giving them just a bunch of CC to be like this nuisance disruption, similar to like Sombra, Symmetra, and put them in the support tree with maybe a little bit of regen, higher or shielding or healing or something like that, and give that to them. I think that would be very more interesting, because basically you've got the support heroes that heal, and then whatever else they're good at, and then you also have Symmetra, which is basically just like defensive shutdown, spacing, very specialist, I guess you could say. And then on top of that, with the two things that you pitched, I think that, like you said, lowering the overall damage of the bread and butter abilities, maybe giving him 2 more charges of his gun because it's already pretty weak in the hand cannon.
Yeah.
And then just increasing the amount of shielding that you're gaining when you're hitting the abilities and allowing them to use them more often is probably the best way to get them into the brawler ability. Will Blizzard do that? We don't know. If they did do that, I think that's the direction that they would most likely have to be forced to go because of how large the hitbox is, how long the other cooldowns are besides the Rocket Fist, and how slow you are when you're charging for that 1 full second. You're just like sitting duck mode before that. You know, that's why a lot of Doomfists are just hitting the Rocket Fist immediately just for the quick jump instead of charging it, because it's so slow to charge just to get a little bit more distance. I think we can go into our last question so that we can actually have time for news this week. So let's get into Reef's question here. It talks about just a quick fire thing. Do you ult when you're at low health? We mentioned this. Or do you ult when you feel threatened or scared as an escape tool? Absolutely. We talked about that pretty much at length. We also talked about saving your maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, but saving your bullets and or using them in between abilities. I think that you were more of the advocate of using them kind of in between abilities, but there is maybe a little bit to use all of them at once.
What was the first question about the ult?
The ult is about you, saving it if you're scared and just using it to peace out, which you had mentioned earlier.
For that question, I mean, what you need to do is you always need to prioritize your life over anything. I guess sometimes in certain situations you could sacrifice yourself to kill someone else. Like if you need to kill a Zenyatta so your Zarya can grab and they won't have Transcendence, or something like that. But you shouldn't be down on yourself if you do use your ultimate too early, just to make sure that you stay alive. It won't necessarily be a good thing, but at least you don't have to die and respawn. which is, that's always good when you don't die. But you do want to kind of try to extend your life or create more value by saving your ult. But you just don't get sad if you waste your ult by trying to stay alive, because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal. You want to try and stay alive as long as possible and to try to get more value for your team. In terms of the ammo usage, I think doing it in 2 to 3 burst combo shots like we talked about is the best way to do it, because right now, with only 4 shots, if you use all of your ammo and you have someone 1 HP, it's really not a good feeling when you have no abilities and no shots to finish them off. So you need to try and pace your shots. I think sometimes if you know for sure like you're gonna slam away from the fight, you can just use all of your ammo, whatever, it doesn't matter, because you're gonna leave. But if you know you're gonna be in the fight for a little bit, try and conserve your ammo just a little bit, not just to do a lot of damage. Maybe save your shots to do finishing damage, or try and force an ultimate.
Okay, I think that's good for the questions. Let's move on into some news. So there's a lot of news, not just because we had a ton this week, but when we interviewed Carolina last weekend, we had 0 news time because we had such a great interview, and we actually got, frankly, a little distracted and a little starstruck. So it was a little fun for us to do a little bit of catching up with an old friend and us to talk about something with somebody that we really don't have any experience talking about, which is non-strategy, basically the strategy of voice acting. So let's get into the Omnic meta. We got 3 new posts that we want to highlight. We got the patch analysis of Junkrat Roadhog. We got the PC meta report on September 6th and the console report on September 11th. So it's interesting to loop both of the meta reports in together because all of the changes for Roadhog and Junkrat rolled out. And as PvP, Andres and I have already stated, welcome to the traps and concussive mind meta, because that's what you're going to be seeing. Basically, across the board, you're going to be seeing grenades, and a little bit more of taking a breather within all tiers for Roadhog, which is very interesting considering that the majority of the the forum and the Reddit community has basically been saying this is not enough. Roadhog's still trash, blah, 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 blah. Roadhog's not actually too bad right now. He's still doing fairly well, efficient, especially on the console. He's much more survivable, given that he's mobile. And Roadhog is up basically at least 8% at all tiers, up to a max of 17, 18% in Master, Grandmaster. And in Grandmaster, for PC especially, Junkrat is up 32% because of how low he was to being really powerful, but only jumped about 15 to 20% in all of the other tiers because he's relatively picked a little bit more at the lower tiers. That's kind of like your breakdown. It's generally actually the same for console. That's why I mentioned them together. And also with the pool here. The win rate change was the most interesting one, where Doomfist actually in most tiers dropping by at least 5% in win rate, and Junkrat jumping as big as 10% within the Master community and as low as 3% within Silver. And then you have Widowmaker actually ironically dropping way down in Grandmaster by almost a full 4%. And Orisa, this is the changes that also rolled out with them, was the Orisa shield changes, and her win rate is up by almost 5% at 3 different tiers within Plat, 2 tiers within Plat and Masters, and up above 7% in Grandmaster. And Roadhog is kind of the same as Junkrat, but not quite as drastic. His win rates are pretty much up by at least 3% at all tiers. Yep. That's it for the meta reports. Special thanks to SwitchFox for doing all that work, and also technically our official partner of the show, even though this is all his work. I just want to make sure that we highlight that. I don't know if I've actually said that on the show, but this is 100% his effort, but we are partnering with him as far as mutual promotion. And additionally to that, we also have free Overwatch weekend that was announced last 24 hours for September 22nd to the 25th. You will be able to play Overwatch for free at any platform, Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. And you can play every single thing in the game. All the maps, all the custom games, all of the heroes. And the only thing that you can't do is play and comp mode. This actually means that you can acquire loot boxes and in-game currency and in-game items outside of competitive points. So for what it's worth, if you want to try the game out, anything that you do get once you do buy the game will then be accredited to that account if you did earn it during the free weekend. We also have the Blizzard Press Center, which is a 450-seated arena that they're opening as an official Blizzard home for the HCT Finals for Hearthstone and the home of the Overwatch League for contenders in the finals. And they're going to be using it all the time. This is opening October 7th, so within basically the next 20-ish days, 20 to 25 days, depending on when you're listening. In Los Angeles, you'll be able to go see games and buy tickets and stuff in there. Our ticket sales are actually open right now for those events that we mentioned. Andres, why don't you talk about the May short?
Sure, yeah. It came out a little bit ago, but I'm sure everybody got to watch the May short. I thought it was really cool. I know everybody who's listened to the show before knows my sheer love for all of these shorts and comics and all that stuff. May was no exception. My girlfriend really, really liked this one. She watched it a couple of times. She really liked Snowball. He was a cool guy. What do you guys think about the short? I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of I've read it had a lot of what word am I looking for here? Parallels to The Martian, the movie.
Oh yeah.
With Matt Damon, I think. And I agree. I thought it was pretty cool. A good highlight of, the science peeps.
Yeah, I really like those. I really like those animated shorts that they make, especially the Junkrat Roadhog video they just released on Junkertown. I watched that like 7 times. That was so funny. I loved it. Like I actually really, really liked it. It was so good. But yeah, the May one was extremely high quality, and just like the Bastion one they did, and what is it, Sombra Tracer Widow one they did, or something like that. They're really good. I like saying them. It was good to see they released May.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me to see some of the feedback that was negative, like all of the comments about the things just not really building on the story, but rather just retelling what we already know. And it's like, I mean, I understand maybe why that's an issue for you. Like, you just want more story rather than what we do have. But the fact is, we only have that stuff in like text form right now. And it's like, it's really cool to actually visually see the representation. I mean, I think that personally, the May one was actually one of the best ones that we've seen. And the Junkrat one and the Roadhog one, like to a T, probably nails the characters better than any other thing that we've seen. Because that is like encompassing of the full character, like the kind of the manic side of Junkrat and the reserved but deadly of Roadhog, you know what I mean? And then like just the sheer pyromaniac that you have within Junkrat of him like freaking out when a match is lit, and Roadhog just at the very end only really saying idiot like once, and like it's just so perfect. So I know that we're covering 2 of them at this point, but like May really hit on all of the emotional tones, which I feel is her character. You know what I mean? Like her character is bathed within tragedy. And at the same time, she's in an extremely isolated thing. And for them to do something like The Martian, where they're doing an entire realm of storytelling solo with one character, was very reminiscent of not only The Martian, but the Bastion short. And Bastion had 0 dialogue, which is unbelievable that they can do stuff like this. So I feel like they're just doing like DreamWorks Pixar level of animation, as well as just brilliant storytelling. I feel like the storytelling at that point, it doesn't really even need the dialogue that they do give it. And when they do insert the dialogue, it's very pointed to the point that it like rips your heart out that all of these people that died. I mean, besides the fact that one of them had a Murloc mug, let's be honest. Well, yeah,
the slippers were pretty cool.
We can move
too.
on.
Those Yeti slippers.
Oh man, everybody wants to buy those.
Yeah.
Those Yeti slippers are hot garbage, dude. I want those.
What I like about the shorts is that I don't really keep up with the lore for Overwatch or anything. I don't read the text or the comics, so like seeing the videos is pretty cool. Like it helps me understand background, more information, more like that.
Yeah, it's that demographic that I think that it's after.
Yeah.
All right, well, Junkertown is going to actually officially release September 19th, and the rumor has it that so will the Mercy Valkyrie update and the changes to Diva Matrix.
Less.
Those are the two big
Dun, dun,
biggies that are
dun.
supposed to be hitting.
Should be a pretty big
But
patch, boys.
I would be remiss. Yeah, this patch is gonna be huge. It is the new escort map, and I would be remiss, and Andres would be remiss to not let the Junkrat main talk about Junkertown. So take it away, PvP.
Junkertown, it's pretty amazing map, just visually and just the whole map itself. Its payload, it's gonna be amazing. Once Junkertown's released, each set of maps is gonna be 4 for each, like 4 payload, 4 DP, and 4 capture King of the Hill. I believe. I'm pretty sure that's correct for that. The closest map I would relate it to is Route 66. It's actually really, really, really similar to Route 66. The downside of the map that I see as a Junkrat player is that Junkrat, I believe, is extremely bad on the first point because of how open it is. I think hit scan heroes are going to be extremely strong on that map on first point, but getting into second and third. Yeah, getting into second and third point, Junkrat's going to be extremely powerful. There's a bunch of flanks. You can double jump over buildings and get people in corridors and chokes. So it's going to be really fun. But the first point is going to be dreadful for Junkrat. There's just so much wide open space, and it's going to be annoying. But I mean, I'll find a way to work. I mean, it doesn't really matter because when the map's released, D.Va is getting nerfed hopefully, and I'm going for rank 1. It doesn't matter. There's no defense matrix. I'll be chilling.
Defense matrix, the only thing stepping your
And the
way.
Mercy can only res 1.
Yeah. It's gonna be great. I mean, right now
I noted. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say right now I'm ranked 12. So I'm really close to top 10, trying to get rank 1. So, and that's with D.Va being extremely strong right now. So I'm hoping I can get even further when they nerf that.
Yeah.
You think it'll come with the tire nerf as well?
Well, believe it or not, it's not a nerf. It's actually a buff.
You think so?
People like to see it. Yeah, it's definitely a buff because the thing is, I played it on PTR. You can still kill Farrah Mercy with the tire on how it is on PTR. You can still launch yourself in there and kill her. But the thing is, I mean, you can't climb like all the way. You can't fly across the map like on Eichenwald. You can't fly. I mean, tire's not meant to be like that though. It's not how you're not supposed to use your ult and then drive it across the map, kill someone. So I guess that's a nerf in that aspect. But the best part about it is that they're making it so the tire falls to the ground quicker, and that's a good thing because right now,
control.
Yeah, it's easy to control. Like right now, I'll drive up off a wall and I'll fly into the air and like wave at everyone and be like, "Hey, shoot my tire down! I'm flying in the air."
Exactly.
And it's so annoying because I'm trying to kill people, but it's just flying through the air.
Although when you say wave, do you mean frantically moving from side to side to like you can't even like see what's happening?
Doing 360s in midair to avoid shots.
360 no scope tire.
Yeah.
It's the funniest thing seeing those tires right now because they move so weird in the sky. It's just like everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the PTR update for the Rip Tire. I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah. I think you brought up a good point about the Route 66 coverage because it's very similar in a lot of ways. But the other thing that I really like about this map is that I feel like they're actually blazing a more unique trail with the map design because of almost the point progression of how that you approach the map. It's not a map where it's like, oh, this map is really good. You know what I mean? Like you have Doomfist. It's like, well, Doomfist is not really good on this map, or Junkrat's not really good at this map. It's more or less Junkrat or Widowmaker or insert hero here is not good at a point. And so you're going to really see in these maps when they start hitting competitive, it's going to force teams that have the offensive progression advantage or defensive progression advantage to stall are only going to be able to hold until the defense adjusts and pushes them off. And so it innately makes, in my estimation, actually makes the attacking team just seem more powerful from that. Because most cases, until you get to the final point, it's going to be more offensive favored. And then once you get to the defensive point where the spawn advantage is on the defensive side because they're closer to the spawn and when the payload's trying to cap, you're going to have it similar to an Eichenwald situation or maybe a 2CP map situation where it's really close and you can just switch really quick and jump on the point. So, and also it's way more congested. So it's almost like you go start really open, you go a little bit more street stagey, a little bit more flank rowdy, a little bit of verticality, kind of a little bit of everything. And then you go into the inside and it's like super congested, really, really tough, lots of moving parts, lots of flanking routes, lots of tight spaces. Good for Junkrats, good for Doomfist, stuff like that. All right, last thing, and probably the most important thing of the show besides the main function, just the Play Nice, Play Fair developer update from from Kaplan.
From Papa Jeff.
I almost said John. From Papa JJ. So I have to highlight this in two lights. This is kind of getting a lot of jokes, a lot of good feedback, and a lot of bad feedback. So this is a very mixed bag. The second thing about this is that they linked a blue post that I will not be linking because it's linked on the YouTube video, which is what we've linked in the show notes for you. And this blue post is not a new one. This is the same one that we recorded an episode talking about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And basically, the developer update is not shedding really any new light on this besides the one feature of them saying that to do what they have done with the reporting system, it is A, updated a little bit for Season 6, and B, it is now available on console. So those two things are the big updates. The big updates to the report and ban that we talked about at the top of the show of PvP about banning and toxicity and all of that, that's finally rolled out, as well as now consoles have access to it. The second thing that we learned in addition to this is that when we are when Blizzard is designing these sort of things and setting up these sort of systems, this is actually taking away from everything else that we know and love about Overwatch. That means the new features that we don't know about, new features that we do know that they're in the process of working on that we don't have yet. And also the things that they consistently roll out, like heroes, maps, and cinematics. All of those teams are also being dedicated to the system creation. So basically, he's saying all of these things, we're pulling people off of their existing projects to address the toxicity, to address getting in a reporting feature, to get in a more feedback when you're getting actioned within the game instead of within emails, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he gave us some more stats about basically 480,000 accounts being actioned before the Season 6 change instituted, and 340,000 of them being resulting from the reporting system that was previously in place. This actually, I did some quick rundown of the calculator. This is 71% of all reports in Season 5 and prior. All of those that were actioned in Season 5 and before were actioned by use of the report system. So I will quote Jeff Kaplan with the next section, which is what people are kind of thinking that Jeff is acting as more of the community dad for people being toxic here. That's kind of a joke too. But he says, quote, "We will try to build systems to encourage positivity, but we need the community to own up to their part in the accountability that they have to really create a good game space." So basically, in the development of games has been slowed because of bad behavior of existing players and also ruining the experience for others. And the Overwatch team is also, which is not being discussed, but I wanted to highlight this. The Overwatch team, he said, accepts the responsibility of the task to integrate these better systems for reporting and to make it a better experience for all players and to also help players behave better within the new rules system or quote-unquote adjusted system. And then he also ends on, "We hope that the player community will do their part to make a difference as well." So it's a lot of words. I talked a lot. Honors, PvP. You guys think about this?
I would say the main takeaway from this community update and the reason why he did it is basically him saying to everyone, give us a break. Like, I see a lot of the discussion goes towards Blizzard. A lot of the hate goes towards them. It's like, hey, you guys are not doing anything to fix this toxicity problem. This report system doesn't really work and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not like Blizzard's over there at their headquarters pumping in the toxicity pump. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the game doesn't have enough toxicity. Let's put in a little more, or let's put some more inflammatory comments or a few more trolls in there because, competitive just doesn't have enough. It's not like they're doing that, right? Like, they're over there just trying to make the best out of this game that they possibly can. And to be honest, it's kind of like on us to be nice to each other and play fair, play nice.
Yeah, he's like, I can't fix you.
We can't patch you guys. You know what I mean? They can't just release the Magic Blizzard patch where it removes toxicity from all of the players. And as much as like they are owning up to it, like he says on the patch, he is creating systems. He's pulling a lot of really good people from his team to work on this stuff to hopefully help the problem. They don't have a solution. Like the solution really is on the people who play this game and just being like, well, maybe I just shouldn't, insult my teammates after they died once on the point, or, maybe tell them to go kill themselves because they are not playing the hero that I want them to play. That's kind of on us. And I think that's what this video is addressing is like, listen, we're working on all of this, but at the end of the day, all these posts that you guys put on Reddit, all these things that you put on our forums, all this stuff that you guys say everywhere, at the end of the day, like, it's up to you guys. And like we can try to create the systems, we can try to create a good environment, but we can't control people. And I think that's what this is about.
I don't think they're ever going to convince people to not be toxic or not throw or whatever that they think that they're trying to do. Him saying that they took action on over 400,000 accounts is not the right thing to say either. Because I mean, I guarantee you, 200,000 of those accounts were probably just muted the comms, like made it so they can't talk in team chat or voice chat.
Action, it didn't say banned.
Yeah, they said actions, and what does that do? That makes it so someone can still queue up competitive, they can still throw games, and the worst part about it is the rare game where they actually want to try, they can't even communicate with their team. Like, why would you punish everyone else for muting someone that's being toxic? It doesn't make sense. But the best part about it is that no one's afraid to throw games, except for streamers. That's the only thing. Streamers are the only people that are afraid to throw games because they'll actually get punished. No one is afraid to throw games. You look at Tim the Tap Man. He'll stream Overwatch to 15,000 people live. He'll have 2 people on his team that snipe him and throw games. They'll pick Torb and they'll hammer in a wall. Those players will not get banned. That absolutely blows my mind that those players can snipe a streamer that has a football stadium watching him, and they won't get banned. How does Blizzard think they're gonna clean up the community when they don't make a statement by banning people that are clearly throwing in the scene? But even for the, let's say, like non-streamer games and like gold rating, people will have a 5% win rate after playing 100 games. How are those people not banned? That is not. You look at their other heroes, they'll have like a 50% win rate on Soldier, and they'll play Hanzo and have a 4% win rate. How are those people not banned? It just blows my mind. Like, they need to make statements to clean up the community. They can't just tell people, oh, you guys need to behave. It's not us, it's you guys. Like, that is actually, it's pretty tilting that they think that the community is just going to clean itself up with them doing nothing. There was a dude in GM, his name was Harley. He was using an aimbot for 3 months. He was a gold border player using an aimbot, and that kid never got banned because there's no way to report someone with video proof. You could record it and tweet at Play Overwatch, and they will reply to you and say, oh, we encourage you to report that player and convince your teammates to report them too. And that person will still not get banned. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. I had a guy on my team yesterday. He had 60 games played, 5% win rate on Hanzo, and he was in GM. He was literally picking Hanzo and walking into the enemy team and dying on purpose. And he had 0.75 kills per game, and he was still not banned. That is just crazy. I don't know what they think they're doing, but they need to figure something out to help clean up the community. Because one thing is, negativity is a lot more of an impact than positivity. So when you have someone that's tilted one game, they're just going to bring the tilt into another game. And it's a snowball effect.
Been thinking, I knew that PvP and you were going to have these opinions because we talk. So I tried to come up with a little bit of the counterpoints as best I could. And I came up with 2. So the first one is that most of the people that are seeing that we are seeing as being the toxic ones in your day-to-day games are a little bit more of the minor cases, and B, the ones that PvP is going to be seeing are the ones that are like, oh, I'm on stage, I need to perform, and I need to do something that I can have the attention away from X streamer. Like, I want the attention, so focus on me. So they're going to throw. And it could be that. It could be like, it's kind of the same general selfish ambition that it is that someone would want to perform in that game. It's just twisted and different and just how people think, and they think it's funny. And so toxicity apparently is funny, and that's how people operate. And that's, I guess you could say, Twitch chat's culture in general. So that's kind of the first thing that I thought of, and it doesn't really give Blizzard or toxic players or streamers kind of a free pass, but I just like in observation more than anything. So to correlate with that, I feel like players at large, especially within console, because they didn't have the reporting system that's the same, I feel like people don't feel at large that it is doing anything, because what happens is they report a few times and nothing happens and they never report again. Or they report a bunch of times and nothing happens and they still report, but then nothing is happening because they were reporting too much for silly things. And so what happens is when they actually have a legitimate complaint, the boy who cried wolf is crying again when something serious happens, and Blizzard ignores it. And so what happens is, I think more than anything, I think this is not just a Kaplan requesting people to not be toxic and to play nice, but also when they do encounter the things that they do need to report, they need to report them as this is a game. This is not something you need to go into a game. And if somebody picks Hanzo and is legitimately missing all their shots, getting killed over and over again, but they're actually playing the game. Like, this is not Grandmaster. The dude running into the enemy team in your bronze games, your gold games, your silver games, legitimately doesn't know better. Like, he's actually trying. So you cannot report them for being bad. That is not a reportable offense. It's also not a reportable offense to pick something that is a 5-6 DPS comp because X player wants to play Sombra, somebody wants to play Doomfist, somebody wants to play Y and Z. It doesn't matter. You can't report them for that. As much and as tilting as that is, and as stubborn as players are, PvP has a person that I will not name on this podcast, but is kind of becoming a meme that is sometimes shows up on your stream. Is like, anytime that player shows up, it's like the most stubborn human, and you're like, here we go. Like, I just have to play with this person, and they're not going to change. And so just stop trying to tell them what to do, because they're not going to do anything. They're going to be belligerent. So that's kind of my first point about the reporting, the boy who cries wolf syndrome. I think the second point that I was coming up with was, we haven't had enough time with the new reporting system to say that it's bad or good yet. We have the new system. Console just got it. We got to give it some time. We got to let things happen. We got to let more people be banned. And we got to do our job as players and report what's actually happening. That includes racism. That includes throwing. That includes everything. This is not just reportable offenses of throwing games. Honestly, I would much rather have a player leaving my game or a player throwing in my game than somebody like blatantly doing homophobic responses or just completely verbally abusing people. Like, this isn't even acceptable within most law codes in actual countries out in public. You would never say that in public. The fact that you say that on an online forum is appalling, let alone with your voice and your mouth. You are speaking into a microphone at another person. Like, that is appalling that you could say that thing to somebody.
And I think that,
you know what I mean? Like, you could go to jail for this.
Ideally, you want none of those. And I do think that there's a happy medium, just like you said, PvP. Like, there is a reason to be upset, because some people, like you said, are getting away with all this trolling, all this kind of like negativity, just like coming in and like doing whatever they want, ruining the game for everyone. And like, you do want it to be some consequences for it, because just like in real life, if you go to a public space, like a stadium, for example, to watch a game, you can't just get belligerent drunk and start screaming at people or like harassing people. Like,
you're gonna get escorted.
You're gonna get thrown out eventually. Yeah, like you might be there for a little bit until they realize that you can't be there anymore, and then you're gonna get thrown out. But like, this is like, the stadium was full of belligerent people right now, just like harassing and screaming at people, and there's just like one police officer that's like slowly making rounds around everyone to like being like, excuse me, sir, would you mind keeping it down for a little bit? And like, right now we need like a task force, right? So we need like SWAT team to come in here and be like, all right, we need to escort these people out of here. Please. So there is a happy medium, and I think Blizzard acknowledges it. I think that hopefully they're toughen up a little bit, especially with these accounts that clearly deserve it, and not just people who are in the spotlight who are just really easy for them to see. And I think that for people who are in the spotlight who choose to do this trolling are just a little bit more vulnerable, because they kind of like promoted to the community, right? So they're the first ones to get actioned when Blizzard can see them. But that shouldn't be the case always. It should be, equal treatment for everyone. Like if you're just doing this consistently and they can spot you, you should get banned from competitive at least. If not, your entire account get banned depending on the action. But I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. And I'll close with this because I didn't really even share my opinion. I was just sharing what I thought Blizzard might say. But like the only thing that I'll add to the conversation, because I kind of agree on both sides. Like PvP brought up a ton of really great points, and for me personally, when you're talking to the community like a dad, and the community at large respects Kaplan, even if they, fire shots at him all the time for, previously being toxic. That's not who he is anymore, whatever. But like, I think that him doing this kind of comes across as a little cheesy, and I don't know if there's any other way that you can really approach it. But in some of the things that he said, I kind of left a weird taste in my mouth personally, because I was just like, I mean, if you're actually saying to the player base that we are pulling our workers on these jobs to do what we need to do to make sure that you guys can't be toxic anymore and that people are getting banned, et cetera, in our system. And he didn't say he was trying to guilt trip, but you know what I mean? Like, you can't really go back on what you actually said and say, I'm not trying to guilt trip you, but no. You know what I mean? So that was one thing that kind of soured me a little. And I was just like, well, isn't it really your responsibility to make sure that these are in place before we get the game, or before people be toxic? Like, you have to put in guardrails before your game is out. And I know that you can kind of go back and here and there and kind of make adjustments, but to overhaul something, it seems like a really big oversight to me. And secondly, the fact that you are pulling people makes it true that you are actually doing what you need to do. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that you're pulling all of your resources to make sure that the system is fixed shows how high the priority is. So it's kind of a good and bad thing for me, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
All right. We need to wrap up the show. We're going really long. We're getting close to that 1 hour marker, or 1.5 hour marker. So we like to thank a few people. We'd like to thank our one iTunes review coming in from Oregon, USA, from Creamy Time. Thank you so much for joining us. He's one of our PlayStation 4 players, jumped into the Discord. Really appreciated getting some help there. If you are here in the live chat, BioStrip is linking the Discord invite for you if you'd like to join. Additionally, we'd like to thank our sponsors over at the Omnic Labs Patreon page at patreon.com/OmnicLab. We are sort of still close to our 250 slot that we need to maintain for the next couple months, basically into October and the very 1st of November for that baseline, so that I can make BlizzCon. So please, if you are a patron, if you're not a patron, go check that. It would help us out a lot to make sure that we can cover all of our costs. And special thanks to Cam A, who is a new patron this week, as well as our diamond level high tier sponsors who get a shout out every week. That's Ben W, Good Apollo, Lysome, Magic, Michael Kritz, Not Muad'Dib, Rice Crispy, or RC Crispy. I always call him Rice Crispy. Sorry, Crispy. Ricky Ticky, Sketchy Nonsense Podcast, Tragic Zach, and Trinium. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you guys want to find anything to do with the show, the best way to find it is actually just going to the website, omniclab.com/links, and you'll find everything. We also have a Discord community that's always popping. We got a couple people, like just a few people, in a really freaking huge Discord that will be able to talk to you pretty much any time of day. You can group up, you can do goofy stuff, you can play other games, you can try to find people for Destiny. I know that we got a good console group going there. Special thanks to you guys in the chat for tuning in live. We got a good number of between 25 to 30 people that showed up this week, especially past guests that joined. Thank you guys so much. If you want to leave us iTunes reviews, it's the best way to support the show. Please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. We'll read your name out in the show. And when shows actually don't go this long, we try to read some here and there. So thank you guys for your support in that way. And to support the show financially, that's what the Patreon's for. It's the best way to support us. We don't take any sponsorships. Currently, we are 100% supported by you guys at home. So if you like the show, you want to help us get to BlizzCon, you want to help us cover more things and cover our costs, that's the best way to do it. Whew, I need some breathing room. PvP, tell people where they can find you at your multimedia platforms.
It's PVPTwitch. That's PVPTwitch. YouTube,
Nice.
Twitch, Discord, Twitter. Those are the four primary ones: YouTube, Twitter, Discord, Twitter, or YouTube, Twitter, Discord, Twitch. And I do have I do have a Facebook as well, but I don't really use that as often. But yeah, come on by. I stream 7 days a week, upload 1 video a day per day, and yeah.
Yeah, check him out.
Okay,
if you
Andres.
just type PvP Twitch, you should be able to find him in all of those. He has a pretty big presence in all of them. If you want to personally find me, you can find me over at Twitter at iPlayGames. If you want to keep up with all my little projects and stuff and what I'm doing, you can also find my music blog over at soundcloud.com/iPlayMusic. And you can find my podcasting stuff over at audioblender.studio.
And if you guys want to find me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram with the tag #NotRob. I have another podcast about Hearthstone, which I may or may not be doing this week. There's a humongous typhoon that's actually about to hit my area and all of Kyushu. I have no idea what's going to happen. They're saying people are actually started taping up windows and stuff, so I don't know if the podcast is going through. But if it does, it's called Velen's Chosen. You can go over to vellenschosen.com to find that show about Hearthstone. We do a lot of teaching, and we do some lore, and we hang out a little bit more relaxed format. So if you guys want to do that, you can go check out my Hearthstone podcast there. I'm also doing another side project, just producing in general, just kind of random Rob thoughts, I guess you could say, on a website called Content Craft is the podcast. It's called conceptcraft.libsyn. That's libsyn.com. You want to go check that out? You can. I still haven't produced my 4th episode. I really wanted to, but this week kicked me in the butt getting back to that early morning schedule for my visit school. So we'll see you guys next week. PvP, thank you again so much for joining us yet again to talk about Doomfist and Junkertown. I know that it's been a good time having you on both times, so I really appreciate that.
4 more days till it's released. It'll be fun when it's finally out. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's always fun.
Yeah, for sure. Don't make sure you don't fall in that scrapyard this week, guys, and don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week. Adios. Thanks for joining us.
Nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself. Walk in